Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into DeLand, Florida, where a pretty big solution to a major problem might just come in a very, very small package.
So, could a tiny house really solve a city's big problems? It's a question cities all over are wrestling with, right? When housing costs just keep climbing, where are people supposed to live? We're going to look at how DeLand is trying to answer that with an idea that's getting a lot of buzz: tiny homes.
So, what's the core issue in DeLand? Well, to put it simply, there just aren't enough affordable places to call home. And this isn't some small headache. It's a genuine challenge that's pushing city leaders to think outside the box, or maybe, in this case, inside a much smaller one. And get this isn't just some random idea they're trying out. As the city's planning director, Carol Kuhn, lays out, this is a strategic move. It's literally written into their long-term vision for 2050, a real plan to make the community more diverse and accessible for everyone.
Okay, so what does this whole proposal actually look like? This is not just about plopping down a few small houses here and there. Nope. The city's thinking bigger by thinking a whole lot smaller. They're actually imagining entire tiny communities.
So how tiny are we talking here? Well, according to DeLand's proposed rules, a tiny home is a permanent structure, somewhere between 200 and 600 square feet. To put that in perspective, that's definitely bigger than a shed, but it's a good bit smaller than your typical starter home.
The plan also gets super specific about density. And the magic number they seem to have landed on is 20. So what in the world does that mean?
It means they're proposing a maximum of 20 tiny homes on a 2-acre plot of land. The goal here is pretty clear: create dense, walkable little neighborhoods that are close to downtown, all without causing massive sprawl or clashing with the city's existing character.
But, a great vision is only half the story. To actually make this happen, DeLand has to tackle its own rulebook and navigate this maze of city codes that were really written for a totally different time.
And right here, this is the central conflict, the real tug-of-war. The city's goal is right there in black and white: affordable, sustainable housing near downtown. But its own regulations are standing in the way, making that exact thing really difficult and expensive to build.
So what are these hurdles exactly? Well, some are what you'd expect, right? Things like minimum square footage rules and parking requirements. But a huge one is design standards. DeLand is being really firm that these can't look like glorified sheds or, temporary trailers. They have to be quality, permanent homes that actually add to the neighborhood.
Of course, a plan this bold is gonna get people talking. So let's take a look at who's lining up to support this idea and who's raising some red flags.
The support is coming from all over the place. You've got community groups and churches that see this as a powerful way to help with homelessness. You have developers getting excited, proposing really creative ideas like container homes, and then you have private companies that are ready to build entire tiny neighborhoods. But not everybody is on board. For some residents, like Cordelia Lewis, it boils down to something really practical. She says she'd just rather be in something you can stretch out in. And her point, it gets right to the heart of the debate: is tiny living really for everyone? It's that classic trade-off between having an affordable place and having enough personal space.
Okay, so where does all of this go from here? This part's crucial. Nothing is set in stone yet. This is a real, live, ongoing conversation, and the city is actually looking for its residents to help them figure out what to do next.
For anyone in the DeLand area, these are the dates to pay attention to. This is basically the roadmap for how you can make your voice heard, from that first public meeting in August all the way to the final review by the City Commission in October. These are the moments where what people say can really change the outcome.
And the city isn't just holding meetings. They're also sending out a survey to residents in September to dig into the nitty-gritty details. What should these homes look like? Where should they go? What actually makes a tiny neighborhood a good neighborhood?
Which brings us right back to the biggest question of all, doesn't it? Can a city's really big dreams for being more affordable and building a stronger community, can all that truly fit inside a tiny home? DeLand is on the front lines trying to find an answer, and their solution could end up being a model for tons of other cities watching to see how it goes.